Hey, good afternoon, good evening, good morning, SBC 205, public speaking, whatever time you're consuming this little artifact of educational media. I am once again Vic McInnes, your SBC 205 instructor, coming to you live on tape from my COVID 19 compound here in the bustling Grovetown, Georgia metro area, the Aiken Tech Outpost in Columbia County, Georgia. Our lecture today is brought to you by vegetables. As long as French fries are considered vegetables, I'm happy. Hey, okay, what we're going to be talking about today, this is going to be really quick, but next week you've got your first graded speech coming up. And I want to give you guys as much head start on it as possible. Your first thing for this speech is going to be due on Monday. That at 8 o'clock, we'll be discussing how all that's going to sort out. But first of all, let's just talk about ceremonial speeches. You've already seen one, and you're going to see a couple of more before the semester is over. You've seen a funereal address, which was Billy Crystal's eulogy for Muhammad Ali. But let's just go through this. And ceremonial speeches are really kind of unique. They are formal speeches because they are part of a structured, larger event. A lot of the rules that we're going to be talking about as we go through the rest of the semester aren't really going to apply here. But I think it's a really good jumping point for you guys to sort of learn how to begin to structure your speeches in a less stressful environment. So there are four types of ceremonial speeches. There are introductory speeches, there are awards presentations and acceptance. And again, we've already talked about this, funereal and eulogy speeches, and then there's celebratory speeches. And again, what makes a ceremonial speech is that it's part of a larger ceremony, and it's not really about the information you're going to be presenting during the speech. It's more about fitting your comments into the greater context of the overall evening. Now, we're going to be doing an introductory speech where we will be introducing someone that will be speaking immediately after us. Now, that person will give a regular public speech that we will talk about for the rest of the semester. Your introductory speeches is going to be something different than that because people are going to have very specific expectations of what they will see you do. And if you do not meet those expectations, then people are going to be very, very upset with you. And well, your introduction will not go well, and it will not set the speaker up for success. So let's talk about an introductory. The differences, and we've already gone over this. Forgot I had this slide. A ceremonial speech is more formal. It's more structured, but it's less rigidly organized. You get a lot more flexibility in what you can do with it. It will tendency have use more ornamental language. They'll use a lot more superlatives, like this person is the best, the most outstanding, the most famous, and you'll speak like that. They're also a lot more dependent on context because clearly a funereal address is going to be greatly different than a celebratory address. And yes, I know we have a tendency now to refer to funerals as celebrations of life. People are still giving funereal addresses and eulogies at those things, okay? And it will be, when I say less focus on the speaker, I mean the speaker doing the ceremonial address. Again, in this context that we're going to be doing the ceremonial introductory speech, we're not talking about the speaker that's going to be following you. Your job as the ceremonial introductory speaker is to introduce the person following you. It's not about you, it's about them. The great failure that happens with ceremonial introductory speeches is people try to make it about them. At a funereal address, people try to make it about them. Okay? And you guys may have seen this, and certainly we've seen it sometimes on TV, where somebody starts talking about, yes, I will tell you that this person who has passed was a great man, and he was a great man because he made me a great man. And then it just goes off from there, okay? So those are the differences between a ceremonial speech and a regular public speech. So this is what you need to be looking at and what you're going to be doing in your introductory speech. And I have an introductory speech, and I will be posting a link to it so you can see what one looks like. I have speeches for all the rest of the speeches you'll be doing so you can see what they look like. First thing you're going to do is you're going to thank the person who introduced you, because somebody's got to get up there and say, now, the next thing in our program is Vic McInnes will be introducing our guest speaker. And people expect you to get up there and the first thing you say will be, Well, thank you, Bob. Okay? And that you're going to do that. I don't care how silly it sounds. You're standing in your basement. You're standing in the hallway of your house to look at some fictitious guy and say, well, thank you, Bob. But you're going to do that just to get in the habit of it because it's expected to be done. The best one I've ever had a couple of semesters ago, the speaker got up and not only thanked Bob for introducing him, but also tell Carol and the kids I said hello. And it really sort of set the tone for his speech, got a lot of attention, did incredibly well because he was real willing to play within the parameters of the exercise. So first thing you do is thank the person who introduces you. Then you make a formal announcement of who you're going to be introducing. Ladies and gentlemen, today I have the great honor to introduce to you the president of Aiken Technical College, Dr. Forrest Mahan. That is the way you start. Okay? You don't bury the lead. You don't do anything. People want to know who you're introducing, and they expect you to make that obvious from the get-go. So the first thing you're going to do is formally announce the person that you're introducing. Okay? The next couple of things can really go in any order. You're going to give the speaker's qualification to speak on whatever topic they're speaking on. Okay, let me go into that for just a second. Let's say you want to introduce LeBron James. Okay, you're not going to be allowed to introduce sports figures in this exercise, but you want to introduce LeBron James as an entrepreneur, a media tycoon now because he owns really massively large production companies. You want to introduce him as a motivational speaker to talk about overcoming hardships. You focus on all of that. You don't say a word about his basketball abilities, okay? Because LeBron is speaking on entrepreneurship. How good he is at the free throw line and the fact that he completes 65% of all his free throws doesn't tell us anything about his qualifications to speak about entrepreneurship. Okay? I really need you to understand that. If you were going to introduce Tim Cook, the CEO of Apple, you may know that Steve Cook is an outstanding advocate for primary education. So if you want to talk about Tim Cook and you want to introduce Tim Cook, you can make a passing reference to and he's going to be talking about primary education initiatives. You may want to make a passing reference to the fact that he's the CEO of one of the most profitable companies in the world. But you really need to get into the nuts and bolts of how Tim Cook is qualified to tell us about how to improve education in our primary schools. Okay? Need everybody to wrap their heads around that. And if you don't understand that, send me an email because that's where a lot of people get hung up on this. Second thing you need to do, in whatever order, tell us what the speaker is going to speak about. Now, this falls in a lot of places because a lot of students will give these, 3-minute long introductions and tell us all these great things about it, and then they go, "Well, I just assumed you knew what he was talking about." Okay? No. We need to be told. Today, Bob Smith will be telling us about. Okay? And then finally, you need to prove relevancy. You need to tell us why we care. And that's not just, he's going to be talking about colleges and he's going to be talking about how to get admitted to a 4-year college. You need to add, and as Aiken Technical College students, we are all interested in moving on to a 4-year college. Or many of us are interested in moving on to a 4-year college. So this will be relevant to each of us. Okay? Those 3 things have got to be there. And then the last thing you do is bring the speaker to the stage. So, without any further ado, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Bob Smith. Okay. So, before we move on to some other issues that I want to make sure so people don't get zeros on this speech, let me go back over this real quick. This is what you need to, this is a 50-point speech to get 50 points. It's really, 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 really simple. You stand up. Thank you, Bob. Today I have the pleasure and the honor to introduce to you Mr. Bob Smith. Now, many of us may know that Bob Smith owns the local tire shop here in Aiken, Georgia. But what you also don't know is that Mr. Smith is a veteran who spent 25 years in the United States Army. Today, Mr. Smith will be talking to us about veterans' jobs here in the Aiken County area. Many of you in this class are veterans. Many of you have veterans who are family members or are friends with veterans. So this topic is especially interesting to you, because this information that Mr. Smith will be giving us will be helpful to you, your family members, or your friends. So without further ado, let me introduce Mr. Bob Smith. Okay? Be explicit. It seems so awkward to say. You may be wondering what Mr. Smith's qualifications are to speak on this topic. Okay. But say it. Say it and get the 10 points for it. Okay? That's all in the world. From this point forward, right until we get to the final, if you want to get an A out of this class, you will do what I tell you to do and follow the structure. Okay? I'm teaching you tools. That's what I'm teaching. Okay? For your speech, you will introduce a real person. That person does not have to be alive, but they cannot be fictitious. So if you come in and say you're going to introduce Harry Potter, I'm going to tell you got to find another person. Okay? They need to be able to speak. So if you want to introduce Marie Antoinette, if you want to introduce Mark Twain, if you want to introduce Ulysses S. Grant, all famous dead people, do not give us the date they died. Okay? You will lose points if you do that. That means you're not paying attention to what the exercise is. You are introducing someone that's coming up here to speak. Okay? And if you tell us that they died in 1878, they're not going to be able to speak to us today. Unless you're a medium and don't do it. Keep them alive enough to speak. Your speech will be between 2 minutes and 50 seconds and 3 minutes and 10 seconds. Okay? That's a go, no go, is what I call it. You get all or nothing. You either come in at 250 you either make it to 250 and you end before 310, or you get 0 points out of time. You are limited to 2 4x6 note cards. As it says in the syllabus addendum, if you violate that rule, you will lose 10%. You'll lose 5 points. Okay? No outline is needed for this speech. All right? That's plain and simple. By 8 a.m. on Monday, 21 September, you will go to the discussion boards and there will be a ceremonial introductory speech forum. And you will post the name of your person in a 1-sentence explanation of who they are. 1 sentence. By 5 o'clock on 21 September, you will get one of 2 things. You will log back into Blackboard, you will look, and if there is no comment there, you are good to go. Well, okay, I'll just tell you. I'll just go ahead and say, I'll log in and I will say good, or I will make a comment that says that's good, or I will make a comment that says contact me if you need to find a new person. Okay? And if you're going to introduce, the name is something like LeBron James, and you're going to be talking about entrepreneurship, do not put LeBron James, NBA basketball player. Okay? It needs to be LeBron James. He will be speaking on entrepreneurship. Okay? Because if all I see is LeBron James, because of something you're going to see in a second, it's a LeBron James basketball player, I'm going to tell you can't do it. All right. So that's got to be done by 8 a.m. on Monday, 21 September. Post the name of your subject and 1 sentence to tell me who they are. Then by 8 a.m. on the 25th of September, you will go back to your original entry on Blackboard in the discussion boards, and you will reply to yourself and post the link to your speech. Okay? I will probably go in and make the post my introductory speech that way by the 21st of September so that you guys can see what it's supposed to look like. Okay? Hadn't thought about that till just now. I will do that before next Monday when you have to be done. Okay? So your deadlines are 21 September. I need to know who you're going to do in one sentence about what, why you chose them and what they're going to tell. Just tell us about them. And then on the 8 a.m. on the 25th of September, that's the next Thursday, you're going to need to post the link to your speech. That should give you about 3 days to prep and do your speech. Okay. Be aware. No political, no sports or religious figures unless they are significantly well qualified to speak on other issues. And I think probably the best example of this is Ben Carson, current Secretary of Housing and Urban Development. That is a political appointed position. You cannot speak about him being a former former presidential candidate or about Secretary of Housing and Urban Development. Okay. He's also a well-known evangelical Christian. You cannot bring that up. If you want to talk about him being a cutting-edge, outstanding brain surgeon, that's fine. Okay? Somebody came to me a couple of semesters ago and said, hey, listen, I really wanted to do my pastor for this speech. And I said, well, you can't do religious figures, and that would be a religious figure. Well, yeah, but he's also a doctor, and he flies down to do eye surgeries on underprivileged children in Guatemala every year. And I'm like going, that you could have done. Okay? So if you're going to focus on the politics, the sports, or the religion, well, first of all, political and religious figures should be fairly obvious. Sports figures, it inevitably, turns into, in 2002, Tom Brady's completion average was 79.8%. 2003, it just gets to be a list of statistics, okay? So no political, no sports, or religious figures unless they are significantly well qualified to speak on other issues. No figures who will be inherently controversial or offensive for other reasons. Okay, if you want to introduce David Duke, former Imperial Wizard of the Invisible Empire of the Ku Klux Klan, I'm going to tell you no. Okay? That is someone who is inherently controversial and offensive. If you have a question about whether or not your person is, and you don't want to wait till Monday, send me an email. I'm not telling you don't tell anybody, don't get anybody who's a public figure who may have some progressive or very conservative attitudes about not politics or religion or sports, but they are controversial figures. That may be possible for you to do them. I just want to know about it in advance. This is not a biographical sketch. You are not reading their Wikipedia entry. Okay? All information presented should be specifically tied to demonstrating their qualifications to speak on the topic. You should be focused. You should be clear. Everything should be related to those specific things. Okay? And as far as the time, it's a go, no go. You get all or nothing. It's 10 points. If you're 249, you get nothing. If you're 311, you get nothing. Okay? And the reason I do this is, especially for this, the worst thing you can do in a ceremonial speech is a ceremonial introductory speech is talk for too long. You should get up there, hit the main points, get the hell out of there. Let the speaker get up because nobody's there to see you. They're there to see the speaker. Okay? All right. Here is last semester's. I haven't got the current rubric. There's going to be a couple of changes that I will go over with you now. This is a 50-point, and I will show you the grading rubric for every speech before you give the speech. This is the grading rubric for the ceremonial introductory speech. The difference between this and the one we'll actually be using when you're speaking is it's worth 50 points. Everything will be worth 10 points. Here's how you get 10 points. Okay? Well, this one's even more messed up than that. Okay. All right, so let's skip that. Woo! Changing on the feet. I fly. We will have a lecture later on this week. Hopefully, if not, like I'll post it certainly well before you actually give the speech. So you'll get to see it. That one has another issue with it that I'm, not even going to get, not even going to start with. So I will get you a copy of the rubric. I will also post it in the documents. Okay. All right. So we're good to go. Everybody understands what the task is. If you have any questions, send me an email. Key thing is going to be this part here, the bottom two bullets there. By 8 a.m. on 21 September, you have to post the name of the person you're going to be doing in a one-sentence subject, a one-sentence rundown on who they are. I will post an example of the speech I will be posting for you. And then at 8 a.m. on the 25th of September, you will reply to your previous comment with a link to the speech. If you do not do that, you will not be graded. Okay? 8 a.m. hard deadline. All right. That's all I've got for you today. I'm going to be posting this hopefully this afternoon. And then hopefully we'll have another lecture before the end of the week. If not, you'll probably get it on Sunday, and I will go over the rubric at that time. Okay. Yeah, there may be changes to that. There's a lot of things going on right now. So, everybody, stay safe, stay well, and I will be in touch soon.